Welcome to Brands on Brands on Brands. I'm Brandon Birkmeyer, and I believe that building a brand that matters to today's consumer is the only way for a business to thrive tomorrow. So listen up if you want to hear how to build that brand that puts customers first, that has a purpose, that provides value, and is here tomorrow and the next day and the next. Stick around. Hey there, welcome to the Brands on Brands on Brands show. Today we're going to talk about setting goals for your business as you're trying to move it online. Before that, if you are new to the show, feel free to jump to my website, brandonbrands.com, to find out more about what I'm about, how I like to work, and download my free online branding checklist. Now back to the show. Goal setting. Goal setting should start by looking at the mission of your business. Why should you set goals that originate from a mission or a purpose of your business? Well, to truly succeed, you need to be mapping how you perform to what you're really trying to accomplish. And typically, what you're trying to accomplish starts with that mission. I don't know what your mission is. I don't know why you started in this business to begin with, but you should be thinking about that. Your business success should align with your purpose. And that purpose may not be the same every year. The thing that you start the business doing and what you're trying to accomplish when you first build may not be that same thing next year and the year after. Those things may evolve, just like we evolve as people. The goals of your business may also evolve. So think about every year. You can pick a time of year. New Year's is always a great time to start thinking about what you want to accomplish as a business. What is that purpose? And then set your goals around that. Sometimes your mission needs to be clearer than it was in the past. So think about, is this mission truly take me in a direction? Do I need to add some definition that actually gets me closer to really what I'm trying to accomplish with this business that we started? And then you do need something, a true north to look back at. As goals change and things come up, you need to be able to decide, what are we doing that's going to keep us along the right route towards chasing that goal? So yeah, every time you set goals, you should look back at that mission and say, does this truly map back to it? And is that mission the same thing that I started out with to begin with? So start there. Start with your mission. The next thing is to move on to your business objectives and figure out how to prioritize those key marketing projects. Why should you do that? Well, it's easy to get caught up working on low value projects, isn't it? It's easy to figure out, what's right in front of you and tackle that, but not necessarily sometimes is that the highest thing on your list. So you might have to figure out and actually take a good look at, what is the thing that's most important that actually drives my business, that moves us towards that goal? How do I set priorities that move me towards that, even if they take longer to do or are the harder things to do? Also, it's easy to get distracted. Things come up that are fire drills that have to get done. But if that's all you do, if you don't set time aside where you can't be distracted, you're not going to get it done. And last, there's always more projects that end up on your plate. Happens to everyone. More and more things are getting put on the list to do. And they're all important, but they're not always the highest priority in terms of reaching your goal. So each week that you are setting your goals, figure out, what's the one thing I need to do today, this week, and make time for it. Make it a priority in your business, especially with your marketing. It's sometimes the last thing on your list if you don't make it a priority and you get stuck. The next thing is thinking about your marketing assets. Each marketing asset should have its own set of objectives. What do I mean by this? I mean that every asset you have, your website, your social channels, your creative, your following, your reputation, all of those things should have their own goals so that you can map different projects to those goals. If your only goal is to build ads, but you have no one following your social accounts, then no one's going to see them. So you might have to build growth into that goal. If you have a website, but you should have built it in a way that converts better and you don't have that as a goal, people will stop there and then just leave because you haven't figured out how to convert them properly. There's lots of steps along the process where you need to figure out, am I using each asset to its fullest capability that then maps back to my greater mission objective? So start with your marketing assets and making sure that you have objectives for each of them. The big reason why is assets. When you think about it, those assets can grow. They can become valuable commodities to your business. And as you invest in them, they can become even larger and larger assets to your business. The stronger each of these assets is, the less work you have to do to convert those customers along the way. Another cool thing about having objectives towards assets is you can have an objective to create new assets. If you're building new tools for your business and you keep adding every year something new to the arsenal that brings people in, then every year you're building a portfolio of something that will stay on the next year and can grow the next year. That's unique in marketing, that you can continue to build assets that bring in new leads. So think about what you have today, how to make it better, and then what you can add tomorrow that will just continue to bring in and be something that stays on the field for you, playing, bringing in those new customers. And the other thing is assets, just like they can be built and grown, assets can die. If you're not paying attention to the assets that matter in your business, a lot of them start to fall behind and start to become irrelevant or start to become unuseful. And you could be losing customers if you don't maintain your assets well. You might have the wrong location on some of your assets or the wrong phone number, or maybe they're not being found or they're not mapping to the right places. You can have assets that straight break and don't work anymore. So you need to be maintaining these things and making sure that they aren't dying along the way. Sometimes they're just becoming irrelevant. Maybe you haven't updated your profile or put new content or thought about a new content strategy that actually resonates with the consumer today. Not the same customer from 5 years ago, but one that actually is around today. If you haven't thought about what works today, those things aren't going to be relevant anymore and they're starting to die. So you need to fix them and make sure that they are staying current with today's consumer and what they like and how they like to work and how they like to act. The next thing you can do is think about how your digital infrastructure supports your business. So how do you do that? Well, first think about, how are your current customers finding you? Is that the only way to be found? Are there problems in that process? Is the number one way that they're finding you, is it optimized the best way that it can be? Is that process easy? Are they having to jump through hoops and take multiple steps to get from where they find you the most to where all your information is? Think about how to leverage the things that are working right now and make them as efficient as possible. The thing that's bringing your customers today should be the most scrutinized piece of your business, because it's the thing where if you do it wrong, you're going to lose the customers you have today. While that's happening, you should also be building those new ways to bring in customers. But that first thing that's working right now is the thing you should look at the most. It's the number one priority on your list. You should also be leveraging your best performing products. It's easy to put a laundry list of items that everyone buys or can buy, the 100 different services that you provide that you want to let everyone know that you sell. The customer that's coming to your website doesn't need to see everything all at once. They should be able to find the things that they're looking for, but you should have those hero products, those things that people love, the things that you're known for. You should put those first, and you should talk about them, why they're valuable, why they should buy them, why this is the thing that they need right now in their life, so that customer doesn't have to look through everything to find that golden nugget, that thing that you do best. That should be the first thing on the list that's right there in front of them, so that all your customers are getting that value right up front. And you need to better manage those workflows with your current online products. So think about your systems. What are you doing to check in and make sure that things are working? What processes do you have in place that leverage your infrastructure in the right way? How are you checking your emails and making sure that they're working? How are you validating the copy that you use to bring people in? How are you interacting with your customers that are brand new versus that are in the middle of a process versus that are finished and sold that might come back in a month or two? How are you taking each of those steps and using your tools to be there for you, to put messaging out there to bring those customers back or to engage them with the right message at the right time? Think about your processes so that you aren't catching up and forgetting things along the way. Next thing to think about is your online business model might be different than your traditional or your offline business model. What's working for you in the real world may work a little different online. So you need to figure out what is the right way to build something online that will work for the customers when they're in that mindset, when they're at those different places, when they act a little bit differently than they do in person? What do you need to change to really cater to that audience in that place at that time? Why do you want to spend time doing that? Well, the customer's expectations are different. When they walk into a store, that's a different experience. They expect to be greeted and said hello to, and they want to walk around and touch things and look at things. That's different than when they first come to your website. They might have a different expectation of what they want to see, what they want to read, what they want to hear, whether it's video or audio. You need to understand what your customers want to hear when they first show up, or see when they first show up to your website. You have to do some work to test that and try different things until you find the thing that works the best for that environment. The other great thing is you have access to different data and tools online than you do offline. So every step a customer takes along your process is measurable for the most part. So if they opt in to be, tracked, obviously, you can follow them on your website and see where they go, find out what's working, where they're clicking, what are the things that they're engaging with most, what takes them along the route that actually brings them to where you want them to go, that brings them to wanting to call you or buy something from you. Also, when you're sending out emails, for example, you can see how many people are opening them. You can find out what type of content that you send out works for people, not just overall, but works for them at the beginning of the process versus a month later, or versus, a longer term year relationship. Each of those things that you send out is a test that can be looked at and measured, and you can try different things, try different messages, try different copy, try different headers, see what people are opening, and see what works at different stages. Maybe at the beginning, it's more educational information. Maybe later on, it's more adding value or providing ways for them to refer you to other people. What are the different stages that you can take, and looking at where the customer are in their process? What are the different stages you can take and look at what should work right now? What should work best for this type of customer, and test it. See what happens. The other cool thing is you can create new products and solutions online that you can't create in the real world. Maybe there's some information that you can provide in a booklet of some sort, an ebook or a download or a video or a webinar that would help your customers understand the process better. Not just one that sells them on your services, but that educates them in the industry that you work in, or that provides value so that maybe they want to do some of this stuff themselves. Maybe you can provide a way to do that. Maybe when they realize they get halfway through and it's really hard, that they'd rather work with someone like you, and they appreciate that you provided the value so that they could try if they wanted to. You can create new products for them online that is separate from your business. And sometimes you could sell that. If it's expert advice where you give your best information, and a lot of these people want to do it themselves, sure, provide that to them. Give them a chance to do it themselves and offer them that opportunity. Maybe they won't work with you this time. Maybe they'll work with you next time. But this is a new product that you can add to your business. Maybe it's something not even what you would think. Maybe it's a little more creative. Maybe you're a restaurant and you're like, what would I put online that makes sense for people to buy? Maybe it's a game of some sort. Maybe it's a way to connect with customers. Maybe it's a way to interact with your food in some way, or provide tips on how to cook at home. Maybe it's something that's just a little off the wall, that's just entertaining or engaging. That's up to you to try different things and test, but there could be things you've never thought of that weren't even in the realm of ideation when you were first thinking about it. So if you take yourself out of the everyday and think, what if you were a consumer of your business, what would you like? Or talk to the ones that are actually shopping with you and ask them what they like and what their other passions are. You might find something that you could bring to the table that's totally different than what's in your traditional store. The next thing that you can do when setting your goals online is to look at the high value environments where the customers are spending their most time. Think about your customers' day in the life and figure out, where do they go? If you want to find the best way to pick a high value environment, a lot of it's observational. You have to sit there and think, put yourself in the mindset of a consumer, or talk to consumers and ask them, how do they find you? Where do they go? Where do they spend their time? And put yourself in those environments. If they're Googling you first, you better be good on Google. If they're spending a lot of time on social, you better be on social. If they're looking through different listing or Yelp reviews or a third party, you should try to register on those sites and be there and represent and have all your information updated in those places. Be everywhere that your customer goes. That's the first way to leverage high value environments. And after having a presence everywhere, the second thing you can do is prioritize the environments where you know they spend more time. So after you cover the bases, dig into the environments where they're spending the most time and take advantage of every tool they have to make the best profile or the best, use the best tools that they have. Spend a little money, make it look the best it can in those environments where they're spending the most time. If 90% of your customers are interacting with you on Instagram, you better have the strongest Instagram feed, the best photos, the best optimized profile, the best hashtag strategy, and be running ads on Instagram. That's how it goes. You focus your attention where your customers are spending the most time and where they're finding you. And the last thing you can do is when you're in these high value environments, give the customer an opportunity to complete the transaction right there in that environment without leaving, without having to jump to another web page or another landing page of some sort or having to take another step. If they're on Facebook, for example, and that's where you're engaging a lot, have the form right there in your ad or right there in your profile or right there in your post. Have something they can click that just pops up. They fill in the thing that they need to contact you or to find you or to buy something, and they click and it's done and they don't have to do anything else. Use the environments and make sure people don't have to take extra steps and jump through hoops. Leverage those environments right there for a quick and easy experience. And next, as you're thinking about your customer journey, when you're goal setting online, think about your customer journey and start to think about how do you take advantage along each point in the journey of where that customer is in their life cycle. The first thing that I look at is context. What are they doing? What's their mindset? Are they driving somewhere? Are they sitting at a desk? Are they on their phone? What are they doing right now? How can you contextualize your message? If they're watching sports, should it be a sporting message? If they're doing their work at home, should you be something that's more work oriented? Whatever it is. If it's the morning, should it be a morning message? Think about the context where you think they're going to be receiving these messages. If they're at a place where they're just sharing and socializing, maybe should be more social. Place all your messages into context and see what works. Play with different ways to engage and test things where you think they might be in this kind of mindset right now. So I'm going to try this to be more contextually relevant to what's going on. And the next thing you can do is look at how you can be consistent. Don't just show up randomly off and on. Figure out what your pattern should be. How consistently you can be reaching these customers. If it's a new customer, do you need to reach them more often? If it's an old customer, do you need to touch base with them less so you're not annoying them? How do you show up every day or every month in a way where people can count on you? How do you walk that fine line between being annoying and providing value? I think what you do is you start with value every time. And once you've brought a customer in and they've shown some sort of interest, if you can find a way where you know that right now is when they've shown that maybe they started opening your emails more often. Maybe they started clicking the content that you shared, whatever it is. Find a way that they are sharing with you an intent. And once you find that intent, then start moving from value to saying, hey, looks like you might have a new need. How can I serve that need? Always lead with value. That value could be just information if they're at that point in the process. That value could be sell me something. I'm looking to buy something right now. I'm out of the researching phase. I'm ready to buy. Sell me something. Give me a reason to buy right now. That all is important and it's valuable when that customer is ready for it. So you can use those triggers and find ways to understand when those customers are at those different points in their life stage. So yeah, we're talking about nurturing and growing those customers, in that relationship. So when you're thinking about how to nurture someone, what are some of those steps you can take to bring someone with you along the way and nurture them into being wherever they're at in the process to the next step? The first thing is to get data. However you get that data, whether it's they give it to you because they're right there and they're happy to fill something out, or you provide something of value and they're willing to exchange that data, or when they purchased last, so when they might purchase next. Look at all that data that you have on hand because they've interacted with you and leverage it. Understand, based on my average customer, this is the next thing that they need or the next time that they want to communicate. Look at your data. What have they told you about themselves? What do you know about them that will tell you more about how they'd like to interact with you next? And then after you find what the relevant offerings are that you can offer at each stage of the process, maybe there's something that's different that you sell at the beginning than the end. After you figured all that out, ask for what the next thing is that they want. Get them involved in the process, survey them, ask them questions, call a couple people up and see, hey, looks like you just did this thing. What's the next thing that you would want from us? Or is there anything else I could provide that you don't have or that you might need. We'd love to figure out how to help you. Get involved, talk to your customers, engage them along the way, and see, what it is that they're looking for. What's the next thing that they want that you can solve for them. Now, if you're wondering how you can learn from those customer habits, I think a good way is to, once you're tracking them and you're starting to understand and know them a little bit better, a good thing to do is watch for patterns. Look for things that you're noticing in a larger group. Yeah, you need to talk to customers individually, but once you start to understand them, you can start to bucket them into groups. Maybe it's by age, or maybe it's by life cycle in your product process, or maybe there's certain triggers. But as you start to see patterns, you need to recognize them and outline what are the things that those patterns tell you about what the next thing is that customer needs. Patterns will tell you everything you need to figure out the right thing at the right time in the right place in the right way. You just got to figure out what's working and what's not. You got to look for those wins and losses. You got to figure out when you tried something, when did you get a rave review? When did someone seem super happy? When did the purchase happen super quick? What are the things that didn't work? What are the losses? When did someone walk away? And when did someone unsubscribe? What are the things that you're doing that drive them away? Put them into groups, understand the patterns, and start to optimize your process and change things up and try new things. See what works and what doesn't. If you don't have wins to learn from and you don't have losses to learn from, you're just going to be stagnant and you're not going to be actually making the process better and the products better for your customers. Next piece of advice when looking at setting your goals online is figuring out what your customer expectations are. It's not just your goals and what you're trying to accomplish. It's what's that customer expectation. Now, why is that? Well, if you're not meeting the customer's expectation, you're not providing value. To get them to come back and become a loyal customer, you need to meet the expectation that they've set in their mind, not the one that you've created. If they expect a certain type of experience, a certain rate of delivery, a certain bundle that comes at a certain price, you need to find a way to meet those expectations in a way where they say, gosh, this was the perfect experience for me. Maybe you have a 5-day turnaround and most of them want a 3. Maybe you have a price that's a lot higher than the competition and your value prop doesn't match the pricing. You've got to figure out what's working and what doesn't. And a lot of that is by looking at the expectations of your current customers and making sure that you're meeting them. So ask them what their expectations are or see what works and what doesn't. Now, beyond the product and making sure that the product delivers in the experience, I do want you to separate product from the actual experience of buying your product or interacting with your product. They are two different things. So maybe you sell a good widget, but the way that they got the widget and the delivery, the box it came in, or the ordering process, maybe all that was a little bit wonky or less desirable. Maybe it wasn't built as optimized as they'd like. You might have a killer product, but if you lose them because the service end of it didn't hold up to their expectation, then you've lost them along the way. So look at, yes, the product and what you can do there to meet expectation, but also look at the actual processes and the experience that customers having with you from beginning to end. Also, when their order's done, what's the experience with you beyond the sale? All these things affect that customer and whether they're going to be loyal to you or not. Now, guess what? If that product and service over-deliver, now you have customers that won't just purchase, they'll also advocate for you. Everyone wants to tell their friends about the great experience or deal that they had, especially if it was unexpected. If you can over-deliver on expectations, in other words, you provide a value that they didn't see coming, and they're pleasantly surprised with how nice the experience was or how great the product was or all the above, that becomes now a customer that doesn't just come back. They become a customer that brings other customers with them, that tells people about this new thing that they have to share with you because they want their friends to have that same experience. Next thing you do in your goal setting online is think about how to sell beyond your core offerings. How do you build a plan to sell beyond your core offerings? I'd say start by solving your customer needs. Ask them what that thing is that they need that they don't have. It could be a small thing. It could be a dessert. It could be a little add-on toy. It could be something that just makes the whole thing more convenient, something that adds to the product that is an attachment of some sort. Whatever the thing is, when you're thinking about your business, what's the add-on? If you're in a service business, maybe you can tack on something that's very low price. You're like, might as well throw that in. That actually is an entry point to a bigger service. Think about all the things that they might need and start throwing things at them to see what those things are that stick. Test things out, see what works. And again, talk to them. See what those things are that you can bundle in easily that they might as well buy since they're already with you and they don't want to go to another place to buy it. And then educate them on the things that they may not know that they need. Sometimes we don't realize we need something till we get a lot further down a process in a sale, and you've already bought something and you realize, oh, now I have to go back and buy this other thing. But if you had a little bit of education, you as the expert and the store told them, hey, by the way, most of my customers, they also buy these other two things because once you get here, you're going to need step 2 and 3, whatever that thing is. Or, hey, most people come back to get this because they haven't tried this other thing. So make some suggestions. Let them know, hey, I'm only here to help. You don't have to buy anything. There's no pressure. But by the way, and you provide a little bit of education and they can choose for themselves. The point is to provide value in a way that is giving them an opportunity, not trying to sell something and shove it down their throats, but basically gives them a door that they can choose to open if they want to. And don't forget to go back over and over and check in with them and say, hey, how's it going? Do you like the product? Do you need anything else? Is there something along the way that you wanted to add? Are you thinking about a different purchase in the future? Check in with your customers. Don't forget about them once the sale is over, because a lot of the time they can become repeat purchases, but maybe they need a little bit of an extra push to understand that they need something else from you, or to be reminded, oh yeah, it's time for me to get a refill on this thing, or to come back, or to try that thing again that you sold that I really liked. Remind them what they loved about you to begin with. And you can even use that reminding time as a time to ask for a recommendation or referral. Ask them if they have any friends that would like the product. Don't be afraid to talk to someone that you provided a lot of value to and ask them if their friends need that same thing. A lot of the times the referral never came because you never asked for it. Now you might be wondering, what's the best way to provide that extra product, to add that extra value, to create a customer advocate? What's the best way to do that? A lot of it is about preparation. You should have a pre-created set of products that are bonuses that are ready to deliver. They could be free bonuses. They could be slight upsells. Whatever they are, you need to map out what are the things that you can give away that make sense at free or at different price points. Map them out, have them built and ready to go so that you can just offer them as soon as the customer shows even a little bit of interest, or that it's built into your process and ready to be delivered. Best thing you can do is start building and try different things. Once they're built and ready to go, it's so much easier to just say, just click here and it's ready for you. Click here and download. And who knows, they might just be in the mood to try it. Don't make them work to take that extra step. Have it right there ready to go. Don't say you'll send it. You can send it to them in a week. Have it ready right now. The next thing you can do is pay attention to your customer's story. They have a story. Everyone's an individual. Maybe there's something about them that has nothing to do with your business that they're passionate about. Maybe every now and then for some customers, you could pay attention to what they love. Find a way to deliver something of value in that thing that you love. If a customer talks about a sports team they like, maybe you can buy them a jersey or a special little gift that tells you that you paid attention. It doesn't have to be all of them, but those true people that are coming back over and over, you should find a way to go above and beyond in some way that makes sense for your business. Now, the bigger the company, I know the harder that's going to be, but still, even big companies that have a lot of customers have those diehard customers that if they tap into will be nothing but advocates for the brand. And that is something that's priceless. So pitch into them, find out what their story is, listen, and find a way to reward them, and it'll pay dividends for you. And surprise and delight. That's the next thing I could tell you is don't just, provide things that people are expecting. Maybe you can provide little extras, whether it's to one person or to a group of people at unexpected times. Surprise and delight your customers. Be like, hey, guess what? Today, for everyone that's here for the next 20 minutes, we're providing a free drink. Or, we're going to have a little game you can play to win something. Go around, give them a little excitement, a little something they didn't expect. That's the kind of thing that they want to tell their friends about and talk about, this cool little experience they had that they didn't expect. You could be the first person to do that for them that day that provides a little bit of joy in their life that they weren't thinking about and they weren't seeing coming. A little bit of delight goes a long way in terms of that advocacy and that talking about your business, creating that word of mouth behavior. Next on the list, when thinking about your goals for your online business and setting those goals, one thing I want you to think about is how do you become an attention-worthy business? How do you become an attention-worthy business? And what do I mean by that? If you're doing that online, what I mean is finding a way to be natively friendly in terms of the platforms that people are on. So what do I mean by that? I mean, look at the experiences that you're building online and figure out what is the behavior that people do naturally in these environments. Are they watching? Are they scrolling? Are they clicking? Are they watching videos? Are they listening to podcasts? What are the things that they're doing natively? And figure out how you can show up natively in those environments. If they expect to see pretty pictures, show them pretty pictures. If they expect to hear an audio clip, show them audio clip. If they expect it to be a quick 3-second video, show a 3-second video. Show up naturally. If they expect word of mouth content or a written script or whatever it is, find a way to work natively in those environments to make it easy for them to work within the context of the environment itself. Next is to be thoughtful about the user flow. Think about how they go from here to there and how you show up in that process. Are you interrupting something that they were hoping to not be interrupted in? Where can you show up that is a good break for them or provides them an experience that is natural, that feels right for the environment that they're in? And then use their time wisely. Don't waste their time. If they're trying to move through something quickly and they're giving you the time of day, take them to where they need to go right away. Don't make them jump through hoops, as we've said before in the podcast. Get it to them quickly in a way that's convenient. Next thing in terms of goal setting is you should be looking at how customers provide you feedback. Online is such an easy way to get feedback from customers. So how are you going about doing that? Do you have a goal for how much feedback you want to get in a given quarter or month or year? Do you have a process in place for that? Do you have a goal set for how you want to improve that and get more feedback more often? Do you have a goal set for how you want to evaluate that feedback and turn it into something you can implement? All that should be on your mind, and you got to make it easy for them. So think about how can you make it easy for a customer to give you feedback. This should be part of your process. First thing I'd say is to engage your true fans. First, you have to identify them. Who are those true fans? Who comes the most often? What's the easiest way for you to talk to them, figure out who they are, and start a conversation? You got to know who they are so that you can reach out to them. And a lot of them, because they're your true fans, want to talk to you. They want to give input. So figure out who they are first. And then once you know who they are, you can take the next step. And that's to engage with them, to communicate with them everywhere you can. Find little stops along the way. You have to map it out. Where in this process is a good place to get feedback that's not interruptive, but provides them a place for them to respond that's convenient and that they want to. I know I get receipts all the time that on the back it says, call this number if you had a bad experience. That's not super relevant. I throw that away all the time. What would be a good place to do that? Maybe it's, maybe there's a phone call afterwards, or there's a text, or there's a website, or there's something else. Maybe it's before they order, while they're waiting in line, or whatever the thing is. Where can you get feedback from them? You have to map out their experiences and figure out what it is that they like to do and where they like to get feedback. Just ask them. And yeah, as you get more customers, it's going to be harder and harder to get feedback. So you have to, put in some tools, maybe some artificial intelligence, some things that automate and provide responses in a way that speed up your collection of data and that provide an interactive experience with customers. But there always has to be a human element too. Do not overlook this. As you are scaling and building processes and systems, make sure that there's always a human element. There always has to be a way to click to find a customer service representative. And not every interaction with the customer, say someone's giving you feedback consistently, you should find ways to check in with them in person as well. Even if they're not opting into that, you should provide a way to reach out to them in person as well. You got to create your mix and figure out what works for you, but don't make it an all robot experience, because that's not something that they're going to remember. And you're not always going to get those little nuggets that might unlock that brand new thing if you're not actually engaging with them in a human way that could read the room and understand what they're thinking and probe and ask more questions. And last, I just want to reiterate that you should be reevaluating your goals often. You can easily outgrow them, so make sure you are checking in all the time. Pick a time that works for you on when you should be looking at, are these goals still working for our business? What can we do to revamp them? Are we mapping to them? Are we measuring them? Not only are you changing, the customer is changing too. So maybe some of the things that are changing in their world mean that something should change in your world. If they're suddenly moving to some new technology or social platform or some new media or some new fad or hobby, how are you tapping into that? Are you mapping your goals to adjust to that new consumer behavior or habit. And then stay focused on your business and understand, as your business starts to change too, continue to check in on what is that most important thing that you're doing or that you're selling. Does that can still work? Is it something that they still want? Is there something new that's starting to become the thing that they want more? Keep checking in on those things that are working the best and make sure that isn't something new. Maybe the quality needs to be upgraded in that thing that's been selling the best. Maybe the components that go into it, the processes, the packaging, whatever the thing is, maybe your core products need to make sure that they're keeping up with the pace of consumer expectation as well. So stay focused, keep those goals in mind, go through this checklist, check in often, set different goals for every asset you have, check in with your customers, and they'll tell you what you need to know. Hopefully that helped in terms of setting your goals as you're going online and thinking about online different than traditional. Let me know any ideas you may have that can contribute to this conversation. I do think of these as conversations, so I love to hear from you. Thanks for listening. Talk soon. Thanks again for listening to the podcast today of Brands on Brands on Brands. If you want to get more useful tips, follow the podcast online, subscribe, and then go to the website brandonbrands.com and check out our online branding checklist. It's free and it's there to help you. Thanks.